And good evening, and welcome to tonight's special look at the potential severe weather event coming up in the next few days. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday night, actually. What amazing weather. So we'll quickly look at the forecast for tomorrow, obviously, so we get touch base with that, and then we'll jump into exactly what is going on, because some interesting scenarios developing, really, with the Bureau issuing a flood watch initially only for the Sydney and Illawarra basins. And I guess, is it a brave decision? I guess we'll find out very soon. But we're going to quickly look now at the forecasts. The forecast for tomorrow, we can see right here on the screen. We can see that today was 17 to 19, beautiful, above average day. Lovely to have some sun and warmth and some light winds, which really is indicative of that approaching system. And we shall see the first stage of that tomorrow with the southerly change sometime around lunchtime. And that will moderate temperatures quite significantly. The air is cold. It's not unstable though, so there probably won't be much cloud weather. It'll just one of those dry changes, but it will make its presence known. We should have about 16 to 17 degrees. Again, if the change is a little bit late, you can probably add a couple of degrees to the max temperatures on that basis, because obviously you'll have a bit more warmth. And again, looking at the rain outlook for the next 12 days, other than the event we've got this week, the previous wet signal we had yesterday has dropped completely off the models at this stage. So they're having a real hard time at the moment actually giving any sort of consistency about any forecast at the moment, which makes everybody's job that little bit more difficult. Otherwise, well, I guess we'll get into it and see what the world is going on. So what we're going to look at tonight is obviously the latest models, what that means in terms of impacts for us and any warnings that are currently out at the moment or advices. And then we'll look at some of the rainfall outlooks, and we'll jump to your questions. So please feel free to pop your questions in the chat. The chat is live. You'll see that on stream as we go, and we'll answer those questions as we pop through tonight's information. Without further ado, let's look at the latest weather models, because we'll also be seeing these together live. I've looked at one of them at this stage that was earlier on, but I'm going to look at them fresh with you, and let's hop into it. So what have we got coming up? And if I get the right screen, wouldn't it? Yeah, I had all the screens popped up and the buttons ready to go. Okay, so here we go. We'll start with EC. This is looking at tomorrow. We can see that change pushing through, as I was telling you, and gusting up the coast. And that's obviously the initial part of this whole initial phase of this whole sort of scenario coming up. We'll get rid of that one off here for you and keep a nice clean screen. What we're looking at here is actually the wind gusts. So we will zoom out a little bit just to give us a bit of context and perspective, and we'll focus mainly on the coast of from Illawarra up, and we'll zoom it a bit more out to the sea so we can see just that depth of that flow. So you can already see that by tomorrow morning and lunchtime, you can see that the trough is starting to build already, and you can see the easterlies and northeasterlies really starting to surge in. I'm actually going to stick on, just bear with me, I'll stick on those streamlines. I don't know, every time for some reason Windy just loses all my settings. Every time you open the app up, it completely refreshes all settings, gets rid of them all. I don't know why. So we'll zoom out a bit. My God, if I can get this mouse wheel to actually do it right. You can see here the initial aspects, and this is again EC. So this is the actually, better check that it's the latest run. Just bear with me. I didn't check that, did I? Because I think that looks like this morning's updated 7 hours ago. EC might not have updated still. Yep, no, it has not. So we'll get rid of EC and we'll jump onto something that has updated because it is still slow. Let's go to GFS. I know the GFS is updated. So we'll again zoom out, give us some perspective. We can see again that westerly and east, that northeasterly flow starting to develop. We'll kick in tomorrow. You can see already that that pulse of instability pushing down from the Coral Sea along the east coast, again as a system's coming from the west and also from the north, kicking to Monday night. You can see already GFS is really responding already to the amplification amplification of that trough already. You can see the northeasterly and easterly feed really starting to push into it again. There's a weak vorticity within that trough, but that's not really a low. And you can see the isobars here bulging down, which indicates the trough is pushing down. You can see by tomorrow night, it's already laying off the Illawarra coastline. And then, of course, the ridge to the south of it, which is indicated by this sort of southeasterly flow pushing into it. So the two systems here, the leftover ridge here, and this developing trough off the coast. And then we'll kick on into Tuesday morning, and you can see already GFS actually brings the system forward by quite a bit in terms of the time. You remember, if you were looking at this morning, it didn't actually really have sort of this stuff till pretty more lunchtime-ish. So we're already kicking in again. You can see pretty even late Monday night, you can see already the amplification of the trough. You can see how the isobars here quite sharp, indicates that amplification. You can see again also the winds that have been sucked into the trough. Those dark red colors and those orangey colors are the strength of the wind. So obviously the light blues are light winds, and then of course these orangey colors or pink colors are quite strong winds. And then getting into the stronger winds above that, like the really damaging, destructive winds, you'll see like a purpley and then a white color. So, you know, they're getting quite gusty here. So that's Monday night. Early Tuesday morning, we can see already the trough is really starting to deepen. Again, it says a low pressure system there, but it's just a general low pressure system. That's more just a vorticity in the developing trough. You can see here the winds wrapping into it already quite, and you can see the trough now well down into the south coast by early Tuesday morning. Let's kick ahead to 4, which is what we're doing. So we've been doing 4, 10, 4, and 10, which is really 6-hour periods. Gives us a nice little snapshot. So you can see overnight, by early morning, that trough is still developing. Just a general area of low pressure, not a low as such, but an area of low pressure. You can see a trough with quite a deep northeasterly feed developing, which is going to suck down quite a lot of moist, unstable air from up in the Coral Sea and the Western South Pacific areas. And that's going to provide plenty of fuel for that trough. Going into Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, we can see here, again, the trough now is actually amplified quite strongly, and it's sitting basically off between the mid-north coast and the Illawarra. You can see here, the windy does indicate like a low here, but that's just a trough, and the activation of trough, how the trough actually, the vorticity within the trough is actually not a low per se at this stage. The wind streams just indicate obviously the direction of winds, but you can see here the southern edge of the trough is actually quite strong. You're getting up to 40, 45 knots. You can see here how significantly it has amplified and deepened even just in a few hours on Tuesday morning. And then we'll go a piece to Tuesday afternoon. You can see really that classic Nike tick that we've talked about quite a few times on the streams in relation to deep troughs, and that coastal trough situation we had in May had exactly this similar sort of structure. And you can see here, basically at the moment, the trough is aligned basically northeast southwest, which is that sort of coast. It's a classic sort of signature for troughs that are basically using warm air or dragging warm air in. So you have the northeastern sides, obviously where the northeasters come from, and then you've got that sort of wrapping from the south and the southwestern side. So that northeast southwest alignment, and you'll see that trough tilt and pivot as the inflow changes and the trough and the developing low, if it is a low, changes in response to the upper systems coming from the west, and also then the inflow. You can see already here it's starting to sort of tilt almost a little bit more east-west. It's starting to now. You can watch these isobars bulging back, which is where the trough is extending the low pressure right back up to the northeast, and that secondary vorticity that we've been watching for a few days in that sort of upper part of the trough out in the Coral Sea, very southern Coral Sea and very northern Tasman Sea, just sort of swirling around. But it's more just the trough itself is actually not really a low. Well, we'll hop into Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. You can see here trying very hard to actually form a low here, and if that's closes up and occludes, which means that the winds connect all the way around, for example, then that would be very much closely an east coast low. Looking at the direction of that, typically you would actually see that the inner low level circulation center, or the LLCC, or this little spinny bit here, this like edge shaped stuff, impacting the coast for a true ECL. And you can see here GFS actually does have it pretty close to an ECL by 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, you can see almost that low-level circulation centre again scraping the coast between Newcastle and Foster on the mid-north coast. And you can see quite strong winds wrapping in. You can see this northeasterly feed really pumping in. And those figures you can see on the screen there are actually wind speed. So 44 knots in Taree from the west, southwest, and 42 knots in Sydney from the south, and also Newcastle from 40 knots. Let's head into Tuesday night. You can see the low does, the East Coast low really doesn't survive, and it's actually more of that structure that we saw with the recent event again in May. And I think this is what, to me, it's just going to be a deep coastal trough. I don't think it's going to be an East Coast low whatsoever, because you see that the low never truly occludes. And you can see here, there's that little sort of vorticity in the middle, but generally it's the trough that is actually the dynamic driving force in this whole event. You can see again that quite a strong bulge in the back end of the trough here with, and you can see why that is because it's the westerly flow associated with the trough smashing into that northeasterly flow, and the air's being squeezed there in that area right out near sort of past Lord Howe Island. Not going to really influence us, but just goes to show just how massively widespread this trough is and how big it is, which again why I think it is a trough and not an East Coast low or even a Tasman at this stage. You can see just the area of effect is just classic Nike shaped tick with a deep coastal trough signature, as opposed to any sort of other sort of signature at this stage at GFS's forecast anyway. You see winds are quite gusty and strong right along the coast, still quite through. Let's go through to Wednesday morning now at 4 o'clock. And you can see as we get to there, go to the 4, again, it's very much a deep coast trough now. We're going to actually slide her up now because you can see it pushing that vorticity. And you can see what's happened here is that the actual wraparound inflow effect into the trough now has actually pushed the trough quite far south. And so now the troughs are almost aligned west-east and almost a tad southeast, east-southeast and west-northwest, by you can see here. And just that consequence alone is actually pushing the inflow bands of those beautiful, moist northeasterlies and easterlies away from it. And now the coast is actually getting more this sort of drier southerly flow coming in from it, which is also from the wrapping in from the ridge and stuff to the south, which is cradling, and the highs from the south, which is cradling the system. There's still be some moisture coming in here, you can see here, but most of it's going to peak off the coast. It will clip up here in around that Port Stephens, between the, Newcastle sort of and the Port Stephens area, so they should still get some pretty good rainfall there, I imagine. Otherwise, that's a pretty deep coastal trough at this time. Let's go ahead now to Wednesday, 10 o'clock. Again, classic sort of coastal trough signature, deep coastal trough signature. You can see now the low is actually, the system, the trough itself is starting again to pivot more now northwest, southeast. Can't get my directions right tonight. And you can see the classic sort of where the isobars now are pointing down, indicating that within 24 hours, I reckon that's going to start moving to that east-southeast direction. And you can see the trough has been deflected and displaced quite further south, and all that lovely, juicy northeasterly inflow is now being actually absorbed by the trough well out to sea, and we're getting like this more drier sort of southwesterly clippings the coast and the outer bands of this trough, as opposed to anything else. The central area of this sort of generally broad low pressure, and again, troughs of low pressure can be, definitely have vorticities and this swelling effect, just like lows can, because it's a trough of low pressure. So it's actually, rather than a low level circulation center, which is what a low is, or a cyclone actually, which is the correct term, a trough of low pressure can be a broad area of low pressure, which is what we're seeing here, as opposed to that, that compact, nice little cute little eye looking low-level circulation center that we're also used to seeing with, not even Tasman lows, but also the warmer chord tropical cyclones, obviously, and warmer chord lows that we see develop. Let's hop in now to Wednesday afternoon and get the times right. And you can see here now that trough is really starting to pivot, and it's actually almost now north-south. And of course, the consequence of that is that it's actually deflected this inflow band from the trough. You can see here the trough backs way up into past New Caledonia, and it's dragging moisture in away from there. You can see it's deflected it way down to the south, and so all that moisture now is going to be squeezed out here, way out to sea. Again, we're left with this. You can see where the flow is coming from for us. There's the ridge here, which is associated with the high. You can see this is the trough and circulation, massive circulation for this trough. You can see basically the delineation here, or where it finishes and where the ridge sort of starts. You can see the ridge is sort of pushing in, and you can see the fetch, or the distance that the winds travel to get to us across water, is not very long, so they're not going to be that moist in terms of rainfall. So I can imagine most of the rainfall will fall under this GFS scenario anyway, between sort of Tuesday and sort of early Wednesday, maybe Wednesday lunchtime. We're kicking through now to Wednesday night, 10 p.m. And you can see the low is making its move. It's now well out, so almost in the central Tasman. You can see that the outer bands, well, the trough anyway, the outer bands of the trough, or the circulation, are still clipping the coast, but you can see them starting to ease. You can see again that sort of southerly feed has a bit more of a southeasterly kick now, and it's a bit more distance that the air is traveling across the water, the sea, so it can actually pick up more moisture, as opposed to where it was sort of shallowing on the coast before. So you could see some decent sort of stream showers, although you can see here they wrap around to that north and northeast, just on the coastal fringe, and maybe just before the coastal fringe. So it might be one of those situations where you see them fly past and get very frustrated again. But you can see the low is definitely, or the trough, and it's pretty developing Tasman low now, because you can see there's a distinct circulation as opposed to the trough, which is this massive sort of slab of purple and arm wrapping in that Nike sort of hook signature. And then there's this inner sort of swirly part here, you can see, and that's quite clearly disconnected from the trough here, because you can see there's light winds between both systems. So this is starting to sort of develop a Tasman low in its own sort of circulation, but again, nothing really strong around the center of it. You can see the trough is definitely the dominant force so far still. Let's kick ahead to Thursday morning, early morning. You can see the low, or whatever it's called, trough, Tasman low, is definitely on the move now to the southeast away. You can see though that the trough is still quite dominant. The outer bands are still sort of scraping the coast and clipping the coast, although not as strong as they were obviously in the first few days. And again, the focus of the moisture is this sort of elbow band here. So all that beautiful moisture coming down, it's going to be squeezed, and there'll be quite strong storms and no doubt rainfall here just off the west coast of New Zealand. And then you can see the fetch of these winds pushing near us, going to be southeasterly and just across the Tasman. So there's still a good chance that it'll pick up some moisture and sort of maintain those stream showers. But really the likelihood of any sort of strong rain or heavy rain from this scenario is very low, because those winds aren't coming ashore and like dying, so they're actually wrapping around off the coast, so that the moisture doesn't really have time to sort of pull up and dump its load, as we've seen in other troughs. All right, heading to Thursday morning now. You can see the trough is starting to weaken. You can see the band coming into, it's quite narrow there, and you can see it's getting impacted by New Zealand itself, the coast of New Zealand. So it's actually ploughing into that, and you can see the effects of that is actually weakening the inflow bands, which is weakening the trough and the whole system generally. You can see that convergent band with the trough on the western side is really starting to weaken quite significantly. Winds backing off, and then we push into Thursday night. You'll see that generally that system starts to sort of wobble and then get rid of it, and by Friday it's basically cleared out and gone through to New Zealand. All right, let's have a quick look at Icon. We'll reset that to Tuesday, or to Monday afternoon actually, because we see that there may be a change in timing with this. And so we can see again, we'll put down the screen so we can see a bit of context. We don't like to give screen grabs without context. So we can see here that just that general easterly flow into that tropical pulse, and obviously that upper system that's coming across enhancing this. You can see Icon has definitely sort of an amplifying trough here. You can see the isobars dipping down, has a bit of a circulation in that trough. But and then moving into Monday afternoon, we'll go to Monday night, just generally track through it. You can see here, again, wind is identifying the sort of area of low pressure, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a low there. It's just an area of low pressure. You can see that trough amplifying. You can see here quite clearly it lies up here off the Queensland coast, and then down here through to off the south coast. And you can see here the flow starting to then kick back now to the southwest. So coming from the northeast, as that trough does amplify, it's going to suck in that moist goodness. You can see there's not much return flow associated with that yet on Monday, but you can see it's just off the mid-north coast, according to Icon. We kick through now just generally to Tuesday morning. You can see the difference automatically with Icon and GFS already is that Icon keeps this system well offshore. now quite clearly. So that's definitely still a deep trough. You can see it's actually now extending right down to the Queens to Victoria border and past the border almost towards Tasmania. You can see that beautiful deep northeasterly inflow now right into this developing trough. You can see quite clearly the trough lies here. This quite area right down here where there's area convergence. You see the wind streams are coming through and then wrapping around on the southern side. It extends that trough down, as I said, right down here. You can see how the isobars are curved. And you can see by this, that when you look at these things, the sharpness of the isobar, so how much of a bend is in it, and that's how sharp the trough is. And at this stage, it's still developing. It's not overly sharp on the southern side, which is why you've still got this narrow band of winds here and not really much else. But you can see this this surge of northeasterly starting to sort of push through, and you'll see that sort of flood through, like just like we did in May with that event that we saw, which was that upper trough or the surface trough, deep surface trough with some ECL-like characteristics, a bit of a hybrid system, but it wasn't ECL. And I think this is going to be exactly the same. It seems to be the season for this sort of hybrid type system where these really deep, sharp coastal troughs aid and abetted or supported by these upper systems that they don't really kick on to being that organized sort of surface layer that we've seen. Kicking on to Tuesday morning now, we can see here, again, really massive deep inflow now, and again a very sharp trough, but the trough is well off the coast. You can see there's the western side of it here, which is at a wraparound effect. This is trying to form a low, and that would probably be a Tasman low because it's quite well off the coast. You can see it's basically east of Sydney in the Illawarra, which is quite further south than what GFS had, and I think that's one of the reasons why that Icon has, you know, a completely different rainfall sort of outlook than GFS does. You can see here it's almost occluded, which means it almost is a low on its own right. Still, the trough extends way up here. You can see it quite clearly here. And then the southern part of it is actually starting to amplify. You can see there's a real slab of very strong winds that's starting to move now towards the coast. But you can still see this disconnect here. There's clearly a break between the circulation of the developing low and again the trough and the return flow of the trough here. It's quite a significant disconnect here. And the reason I say that is you can see here the winds don't actually wrap around in here. They go back up to the top of the system and then wrap around it. If this was really like the low, you'd see that this whole sort of burst of winds here would be wrapping around into the low itself, or developing low that is. And we're going in now to Tuesday afternoon, 4 o'clock. You can see the low retrograding as that upper system comes through from the west and actually sort of sucks it towards you. You can see here definitely into developing a pretty decent low here. You can see now it's actually occluded, so we can actually sort of, we'll zoom in a bit now, and you can see actually the winds and its own circulation here, and really starting to sort of fire up. But it's just, you can see the just clipping the south north-south coast there and a bit of the lower. Otherwise, most of that circulation is off the coast. So unfortunately, all that goodness associated with that, you know, that low and the outer bands are just off the coast for us. The south coast should see some of the outer bands, though, at this stage with this scenario anyway. But unfortunately for us, no, we'll be under a west, sort of southwesterly flow, which is going to not be really good because it'll be dry. Let's kick into, we were supposed to go, it's really, we're supposed to go 10 o'clock, was lagging a bit there. Again, you can see the outer bands do start to encroach as that system sort of, again, looks more of a hybrid-like, you know, it starts to take off. You think, yes, we're finally going to see like a low, and you can see automatically it's starting to not occlude. You can see it's starting to weaken here, especially on the southeastern side. Again, the trough is starting to dominate quite strongly, and very, very strong winds, especially just off the coast here, 70 knots. And you can see that those winds now are clipping basically anywhere between the sort of Narooma through to Sydney and almost the southern central coast. But still no ECL there. And then you can see again, low is completely, or the circulation of low is completely lost its occlusion. It's now back to just a very, you know, very deep trough. And in fact, it's pretty just very briefly there, a low pressure system for a period of time there on sort of Tuesday night. But back to definitely a coastal trough here. You can see that classic Nike tick. And again, yeah, not included, even though the winds are sort of around most of it. You can see here, most of that circulation, you can see basically leaks towards the south and then wraps back into the trough. There's very little sort of tight vorticity here around it, but generally speaking, that's just a classic deep coastal trough signature at this stage. And you can see that wraparound inflow, and this is why I think Icons does prefer some better falls in the south coast, because you can see that beautiful sort of northeasterly fetch again feeding into just clipping the coast down here in the south coast. And of course, anywhere sort of north of the Illawarra is the Port Cousins. We're getting a drier westerly feed. You can see it's quite strong there in elevated areas as that trough does start to suck in, and because of that retrograding to the west in the upper system, and now pushing through to Wednesday night, and see that it's trying to form a Tasman low. In fact, there's probably almost a Tasman low there. You can see it's got its own occluded circulation again. You can see the winds here around it are wrapping into it, even though it's not quite completely connected there. It's pretty much so. Definitely a deep Tasman low, and you can see again the trough still sitting here doing its thing. And we'll see what comes, what it does, where it sucks away. But again, the very outer bands of that convergence zone here, still clipping that south coast and the Illawarra. And you can see quite strong winds again, pretty south of the Illawarra and all the very southern basin, so around Camden, Campbelltown, around Picton, those sort of winds, and then get up in the Blue Mountains. Most of Sydney is protected at this stage, other than the far sort of coast and the coastal areas, of course. Heading through Wednesday afternoon, and you can see here now it's a full-blown Tasman low. You can see it's got a occluded discrete circulation, and it has its own circulation. You can see the air circulating around itself, and then the trough also aiding and abetting it. Again, the trough hasn't really moved. This extension of the trough here just basically set off the coast, which is really annoying because it's actually blocking a lot of this easterly and northeasterly and even the southeasterly feed from actually getting onshore. And these westerlies are just basically keeping all that rain off the coast. But you can see here deep Tasman low for sure. And some pretty strong winds up there off mid-north coast and another hunter, but way off the coast. So not going to really worry anybody. And into Wednesday night now. You see, like these lows aren't lasting long. They occlude, they start looking like they're going to sort of bomb away, and then again they start to weaken. You can see here it's about to scatter off to the southeast, and it's really probably a consequence of this sort of the upper systems not hanging around enough to actually allowing the upper level sort of winds not allowing this sort of low to get really going. Again, the outer bands of the system are still anchored basically on the coast, and so anywhere sort of Wollongong and south being sort of pretty nasty winds now for almost 48 hours consistently. Winds easing sort of in most of Sydney, but again, the far southeast corner of the coastal and the far southern edges of the city, the Greater Sydney area, still getting some pretty gusty winds, but not much in terms of rainfall. Looking at that pattern, let's head into Thursday morning now. You can see again, really just a Tasman lowish or more still a trough. We can see there how it's pivoted and tilted quite significantly now. There's more a southwesterly feed right along the coast. Still very strong winds, basically anywhere sort of south of Sydney on the coast. And we'll start to see that low take off to the southeast now, because you can see where it's pointing. And as it goes, you can see it starts to withdraw those outer bands, and away it goes quite quickly. And goodbye into Friday, and we should see pretty much fine conditions return. Fine, drier and milder conditions. All right, we'll go and have a quick look at access, and hopefully then EC has updated, and we'll quickly do that, and then we'll jump into the rain forecast and see what that is saying, what the Bureau are seeing that nothing else can see at this stage. All right, this access, we'll zoom out again just so you get that bigger picture about the context. You can see that massive burst of easterlies feeding into the developing trough basically off the southeast Queensland coast and then pushing down. You can see how the isobars are bending down already. You can see already the trough is off the coast here and deepening by the way the isobars are bending. And you can see basically just sort of layers along here, sort of across the far north coast, and then it sort of arcs to the southeast here, way out off, almost down. Well, it is all past the border already in Monday lunchtime. Kicking through to Monday afternoon, you can see again the trough really starting to deepen and amplify. You can see that easterlies is now starting to tend to more east-northeasterlies than northeasterlies, which shows you the focus of the trough is going to be down here. You can see clearly the return part of the trough starting to develop as well. That sort of southerly component, and really kicking on. Let's go in now to Monday night and 10 o'clock. You can see really now, again, that trough really amplifying. You can see the isobars now bending way down to Tasmania. You can see the sharpness of the isobars there. So quite a strong, surface trough developing and amplifying quite well. You can see this beautiful fuel load heading towards it really to supercharge it. And you can see this sort of return sort of flow here, and that's more just a vorticity in the amplifying trough that's not a low as such yet. And let's go into early Tuesday. Again, you can see here the trough really pushing down now and amplifying right through to Tasmania almost. You can see again, this sort of indicates the sort of the breadth of the system. You can see this weak high sort of cradling it and this other high here. So they're basically cradling the system. You can see they're really not having much impact other than stopping it sort of dipping too far south. You can see the just the nature of the inflow into this trough quite extensive. And again, very easy to spot where the trough lies. You know, the northern aspects here, and then the southern aspects right down here. Still no low. And we'll head into Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. You can see here again, the trough is really amplifying now, really strong. Look at the eastern side of it, really hammering in. And this is where we'll zoom in a bit if I go the right click. So you can see again, the trough lies here quite clearly, an area difference between, you know, one circulation and the other circulation. There's no low level circulation center there. There's no broader low level circulation. This is just a very deep surface trough over a significant area. And you can see here that beautiful moist northeasterlies and easterlies being squeezed off the coast of us, unfortunately. And we can see that we're under that sort of more less moist southerly flow that seems to be hanging around from every model for a few days. Heading into Tuesday afternoon now, you can see again the trough still no low, even though it says low there. It's just an area of low pressure. It's quite deep trough too at 999, massive area of 999 pressure. You can see the trough clearly extends way up here off past Lord Howe Island to the northeast. Again, picks up that same little vorticity that GFS and EC did also have. So they're all on board there. You can see like the inflow of this trough is just incredible. 50 to 60, 65 knots. I reckon that's pretty nearly almost 80 knots up there. Close, yep. Really strong winds. And then of course the return flow here on the side here up to 60 knots, but thankfully it's all off the coast. You can see the coast here is about 30 to 45 knots. So, you know, it's into that sort of damaging wind rating scale, but just into damaging wind. So, and thankfully most of the nasty part is well off the coast. The exposed sort of parts of the south coast, like Jervis Bay, for example, and the sort of the around the Royal National Park near us, and also around some of this Illawarra, we'll get some stronger stuff because they'll clip this outer band stuff. But generally speaking, at this stage, everywhere has sort of been safe. Head into Tuesday night. I say so this scenario at this stage doesn't look very wet at all, but you can see then this starts to push back to the west and retrogrades back towards west as that sort of system comes in, the upper system comes in from Tuesday night into Wednesday, which then allows it to intensify and organize. But again, no low, very deep surface trough, very deep surface trough. Look at the return flow here, and this, I mean, that is just incredible. 85, nearly 90 knots. That little vorticity, you can see why is because the return flow here of the trough is really wrapping in and being squeezed against that northeasterly flow. So that collision would be some pretty strong, nasty storms out there in the middle of nowhere. A bit more moisture penetrating towards the coast, so we should see a kick up in showers and activity Tuesday night. And looking at this way anyway, definitely for anywhere south of sort of Steel Rocks right down to the south coast. At this stage, the mid-north coast and north should be quite dry because you can see them under this westerlies, very dry westerlies. Let's go into Tuesday morning now. Again, the outer band of this hodgepodge sort of system, you can see like it's definitely a trough. What a sort of mess this is, but you can see again the trough is still dominant here right across the south. You can see that's how it's tilted more, almost starting to get to that southeast northwest, but it's not quite yet. But pretty nasty outer band stuff here early Tuesday morning for basically south Newcastle and south, and clipping sort of Seal Rock sort of area as well. But pretty strong winds here up to 70 knots just on the coast, or just off the coast. We can see the coast here, 45 to 60 knots is in that almost in that destructive category, if I remember off the top of my head. So going to be pretty nasty winds. I think that's going to be, for me, I've been saying for days now, I think the main feature of the system is actually going to be the winds. That's which why I was quite surprised at that flood advice coming out, but I think maybe they're just crossing their T's and dotting their I's again. Still no real low. little tight vorticity, but again, you can see quite a massive trough. Like this is a really deep, massive in area trough. You can see just the distance it covers, just incredible. And that's what allows it actually to generate some decent rainfall if the rainfall actually gets to us, because just a fetch of those inflow bands, way out up into New Caledonia and almost Fiji. Now you can see here into Wednesday evening, you can see again just really that massive Nike tick, not that sort of sharp Nike tick that we saw here. So you can see this is pretty just a massive trough. Let's get on to Thursday morning now. And you can see the system's already starting to decamp to the east and southeast, and the outer bands still, the trough and the outer bands of whatever this is, it's still not even really a low, but you can pretty call it loosely a Tasman low. But I mean, I guess it is because it has like an occluded circulation. You can see there is a distinct circulation of its own out here. So it pretty is more Tasman low right now, and then these outer bands, but they're starting to really rapidly push away from the coast. You can see already there's quite a clear line. And then we'll see that obviously disappear out to the east through, actually, sorry, it went backwards in time. Into Friday, you can see some clipping of the bands, but then away it goes through Friday and clearing up pretty rapidly. All right, last but not least, let's check if EC is updated. It pretty much should be. I'll just double check here. And that'll give me an answer. Updated. Yeah, beautiful. So we are right now into fresh EC territory. Okay, we'll zoom out again to see the broad scale picture before we zoom in and see the specifics of the area. So you can see again, EC pretty much not the same as Axis, GFS, and Icon now, about the development more Monday as well. In the trough and pushing down the coast throughout Monday afternoon to Monday evening. Again, no real low there at this stage, just a pretty amplifying trough. You can see that by amplifying, obviously, I mean deepening or getting stronger. You can see the reason why. You watch those winds go from that hard sort of easterly and orangey, then start to pink up pink, and then get more of a northeasterly feed as the trough sucks it down. You can see here, definitely the coastal trough lying right down here in much the same direction as the other three models. You can see here, again, we'll zoom in now because this is, again, different to all the other three models. So here we can see trying to develop a low. See this tight little circulation here. Not quite formed yet and quite off the coast from Kempsey. You can see the trough pushing down here, the way the isobars are bend all the way down. Let's go to Tuesday morning, 4 o'clock, and see where it does happen to them. Again, still no east coast low there. Just a pretty sharp, amplifying coastal trough, deep coastal trough. You can still see most of the strongest part is well off the coast, and there is this developing sort of southeasterly, southerly on the western side of it, on the southwestern side or southern side of it, but still no real low pressures here yet, other than this vorticity. And there we go, starts to develop a low, and that's definitely a low pressure system there. You can see there is actually its own occluded circulation as well as the trough dropping in, but you can see the difference automatically between EC and the other three models is that you can see quite clearly that this circulation here is by itself. This is still quite disparate from it, away from it. So this is definitely a low, whether that's an east coast low. I guess it's pretty close to the coast, but it's still quite offshore. So technically it doesn't really fit the definition. So it's only, it's 50-50 of each, but it definitely is its own sort of, again, its own signal. We can hit into Tuesday morning now. Sort of a broad scale circulation there, quite elongated though. So it's not that tight little circular sort of low level circulation thing you would see with the low. This is actually sort of, again, sort of transitioning pretty more into a deep coastal trough, to be honest. You can see here there's a bit of a disconnect going on, and the way it's actually the center is actually elongating from north-south, and you can see here this return flow here on the northern side starting to push more up into the back end here. You can see the main convergence out here way off the low as well. So it's definitely starting to get that sort of Nike flick to it. And there we go, start to get that sort of Nike flick going into a Tuesday afternoon, sorry. Probably trying to still be a low there, or it's 50-50 what that is, but still quite close to the coast. You can see this sort of inner band of quite strong winds here, very much clipping the coast here. So whether it's an ECL or it's that hybrid system, it's definitely still within very close to the coast here, and pushing through, which is why I still don't understand why there is a flood threat advice such as for the Sydney area, when nothing really at this stage is. You've seen all the models. There's been no embellishment. What you've seen with your own eyes, nothing has really focused on the Sydney Illawarra area other than what we've seen. You can see here now, it's really actually transitioning into probably more of a Tasman low. You can see this sort of elongated, and you can see the center, and you can see the winds are displaced away from that center. Oh, I keep doing that, which is normally typical, atypical of a sort of cold chord Tasman type low, where the strongest winds are displaced away from the center, and you can see that wrapping around. If the trough still wrapping on the south side of it. Again, you can see, unfortunately for most of us, that sort of southwesterly flow into it, keeping the rain off the coast. I'm going to be not surprised if we see a pretty strong downgrade in EC's rainfall forecast quite list, but we'll check it very soon. You can see this classic again, that Nike tick feature. You can see quite clearly there's a disconnect here between that. There is a bit of a circulation here, but generally speaking, that's a very deep surface trough. You can see how it kicks in and then wraps in that sort of classic Nike tick signature, that hook. But it could be a low too. It's not really everything there. That's a low, because you can see here the trough to the south, and you can see the low has its own circulation here, and that's obviously in response to that upper system coming through. Again, pretty nasty winds, but the main band of convergence with all the goodness and showers and stuff as well off the coast, which pretty much matches what Access and Icon had as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if EC matches their rainfall forecast, to be fair. Let's go into 10 o'clock now, Wednesday morning. As that upper system comes, you can see really that outer band's kicking back as it retrogrades a bit, but that's now lost its occlusion. It's still maybe a Tasman low now at this stage, but you can see most of the activity is well displaced from it. Again, let's go into Wednesday night now, and it's already making its move to the east, as you can see. But again, the outer bands of this system are still sort of pinned on the coast, just like every other model. So you can see how much it's pivoted though. You can see now it's east-west here quite significantly, and that says it's about to decamp rapidly, pretty within 24 hours, I'd say. Let's have a look. Kicking in now, you can see that this is the part here which we saw this morning, which is interesting. You can see that trough now extends back as it wobbles around this bend in here, and so that's not the low, it's actually a trough. And you can see here really pushing up. There should be some good rainfall here. Wednesday night into Thursday, I think we'll probably see some good rainfall with EC here, because you can see this nasty convergence zone. You can see the winds are traveling along here, and then they kick back almost, a 180-degree direction, which is where there'll be a lot of convergence, squeezing of the air, quite a lot of rainfall going through there into Thursday morning. You can see that band then pushes right up through us and up into the southern mid-north coast, and then clears out as this massive Tasman low and associated trough starts to then make its journey off away. One sort of final, you can see here the trough is pivoting here. You can see it actually started here. It was sort of east-west, and it goes to northwest, southeast, and then here it's north-south. You can see it very clearly. And then as it does that, you'll see the flow then of these winds basically turns parallel to the coast, indicating that there'll be not much activity at all. And in fact, even the winds at ease, and you can see then it goes and gets captured, and away it goes. Alrighty, so we've got some of the model forecast that we'll have a look at now, and then we'll pull up AC last on windy and have a look at that and see what it's got to say for itself. And we won't do those. We'll just go straight into that for you because we don't want to take too much time up. So we'll just turn those off now. And we should see rainfall pop up right now. All right, so this is what we're seeing here is our blended model images. So this is the output of all the model forecasts at this stage for that have come in. Obviously, save EC. So this is the regional one. So you can see here, majority of the rainfall off the coast, clipping some of the coast. But this is what I just couldn't understand about the flood and with that little bulge back into the back of the Illawarra there. But really, and this is interesting, this part up here, no flood warning for the Hunter, but there's this definitely the persistent sort of back up into the Hunter there for that anyway. And this is the zoomed in sort of more regional view. You can see here, not much on the coast at all, right past the coast, honestly. Okay, so this is Access G's regional update this morning. I'm going to actually make this bigger for you, so you should be able to see it nice and clear. So you can see all the rain off the coast with Access, other than these little pockets with a bit of assistance from those high elevations to squeeze the winds. That's what's causing those little pockets of increase. You can see here, Sydney coastline maybe up to 60, 70 mils, and then basically tapers off very quickly after that. And again, the south coast is probably going to do better because of the proximity. And the good news is for the mid-north coast and those areas impacted by that May trough, not much rainfall at all, so nothing to worry on this one anyway. And this is the zoomed in access view for our region area for Sydney itself. You can see again, really nothing much at all, other than that sort of patch up into the back end of the Illawarra there, and then that patch into the Hunter there, which is falling into the Hunter side, not the Manning Valley side, so that will make mid-north coast happening. Okay, this is the Bureau's ADFD, and I think this is why they're basing this flood advice on only this, because there's no other model that looks any closer like this. So this is the regional view. You can see obviously quite clearly, I'll make it bigger for you, sorry, quite a lot of rainfall if this does come off, and that it definitely justifies a flood advice here, because that's pretty. But then if you think this is what they're basing their flood advice on, then why is not the Hunter included in this? Why is the Central Coast not included in this? And why is probably not the South Coast included in this? Because you can see here by the shading, this is definitely going to cause some stream rises within that Hunter Valley area, river systems for sure. You get 200 mils there, it definitely would cause a bump in stream levels. So again, it just doesn't make sense. What this flood advice is about, honestly. And this is the zoomed in regional version of the Bureau's ADFD, or the Met-I model. You can see here why, if this was to come off, why there would be a flood threat advice. But again, no Central Coast, no Hunter, even no sort of South Coast. Yeah, can't answer the question why that would be. Like, none of the models you're about to see evidence any reason to have just the Sydney and Illawarra areas. Okay, this is the AIFS, so the AIO EC model, the improving quite legitimately in its accuracy. You can see here really not much at all, and definitely no reason to issue a flood threat advice on this model anyway. And as I pointed out, those areas, the exposed coast around the sort of northern, south coast will definitely do very well in terms of the system we've seen, and AIFS actually backs up pretty significantly. Otherwise, good news for the mid-north coast areas, not much rain there whatsoever. And then the zoomed in model here, you can see, again, really no justification that I can see there for any flood watch. Still some good falls though, up to 40 mils for most of Sydney, which is most people will be happy with, but that's definitely not going to increase any flood risk or create any flood risk, and be likely, unless it falls within a short period of time, there'd be not even any flash flooding sort of risk from that. Okay, this is the CMC, the Canadian model. You can see it's not interested at all, not at all. So, and these are all, this is the CMC regional view. So back out, you can see all the stuff well off the coast, other than that sort of accumulated area down the south there. Again, great news for the mid-north coast. You can see all basically not even much there, other than the coastal sort of fringe getting some. So, all right, this is GFS, the GFS regional view. Again, like if you're going off this as part of the flood threat advice, why not include the Hunter? Why not include the sort of south coast? Because quite clearly, even on GFS, oh, sorry, I'll make it large. I keep forgetting it doesn't enhance it. Even on this here, you can see it's pretty significant falls for the Hunter coast, the Central Coast, the Sydney coast, and then up into the upper S areas of the Hunter, but not in the flood threat advice. So again, I don't know. I'm actually flummoxed as to why it is, but here's that zoomed in GFS view, the regional view now. You can see, there's substantial falls and justification definitely for that flood threat advice here if these would come off, but not including the Hunter, so I'm not sure. Icon regional view, not interested at all, not even worth looking at much long, no much rain at all for Icon. Looking at the zoomed in view, as you can see, not much at all, not much rain at all. In fact, it's downgraded again since this morning. So again, why I was flummoxed away, there's a flood threat advice about, there's literally nothing you, not, yeah. If that scenario came up, the Bureau would be quite embarrassed. I really hope something does happen for them, because that's, pretty embarrassing per se. It's almost like saying there's going to be 300 millimeters for the North Coast. Again, this is the UK Met version of regional view. Again, some nice falls, but nothing there that justifies a flood threat advice. You can see all of that, most of the concentrated heavier falls are well off the coast, well off the coast. And again, the zoomed in regional view, some good falls to the coastal areas from basically the Hunter right down to the south coast. Some good rain there, but nothing there that screams a flood threat advice, for anybody, I think. Anyway, we shall see. We'll pop in now to have a look at Windy again, and we'll look at what EC is showing. So we'll go to EC, and we'll start with Monday, and we'll do the day by day that we did this morning, so you can see that I am not picking and choosing and cherry picking. I'm showing you exactly what it says. So the figures you'll see against the names on the locations there are actually rainfall figures. So I can probably actually drag this window in and zoom it in for you now. Always the wrong way, because you don't really need to see too far up to see. So you can see here Monday, some pretty good falls up that northeast corner associated with that sort of developing surge in the pulse, but you can see not much else. And let's go into Tuesday now. So this will skip a day ahead, which is great. Which is why I like this little slider. All right, so this is now the whole of Tuesday. You can see definitely some good falls. That sort of coastal edge down near Foster, which is what I mentioned, nearly 100 mils, which is not unsurprising. But Newcastle 75 mils, but really 40 to 50 mil falls really isn't scary for anybody. And those falls you can see taper off significantly quickly. 40, 50 mils on the coast in Sydney and only 6 mils in Penrith. There's not going to be too many pressures on the riverine systems there anywhere, to be honest. And look at the falls around Barrel, 22 mils, Camden 11 mils. There's not going to be any pressures on the Nepean at all from that. Into Wednesday now. Sorry. Again, make your own mind up. Like, I'm giving you the facts. This does not justify a flood threat advice. So unless they've got something they're seeing that they're not showing and not publicly releasing, I don't understand. I don't understand why it's been justified on the AADFD model, which is like complete outlier to everything you've seen. I'm showing you everything. I've shown you everything as of fresh right now. So I'm not picking and choosing the graphs I'm showing you. I'm giving you every single piece of data that I can see myself. So my criticisms aren't based on just one thing. It's based on one. I've seen you've seen it with me as we've live reacted to this. So again, nothing there that justifies a flood threat advice. 35 mils on the coast, 44 mils in Wollongong, easily nice falls, good falls, good solid falls. Nothing there that's going to cause any significant stream rises or the Lake Illawarra to rise or anything like that justifies a flood threat advice on this images we've seen. Okay, I've given you all the data. You make up your own mind, but anybody with, and I'll show you the complete accumulated fall here. So again, that wraparound band that I mentioned too from that EC, that little trough that as it tilts and before it takes off, it gives that sort of surge of southerlies, southeasterlies. Some good showers about that. Again, 20s, 80s, 32 mils on the coast. Beautiful, nice top ups. Nothing there that's worrying in terms of any exacerbated riverine flooding or even flash flooding, unless it all falls within like an hour or a half for flash flooding anyway. But again, and nothing there that screams a flood. And then into Friday, you'll see quickly, bang, gone. So I'll just show you the accumulated for the whole week now, so you can compare it to what we've seen just then on the cancer. You've got all the evidence in front of you to see, so I'm not cherry picking. This is what EC has for that week. For the 5 days from Monday, you can see some pretty good falls on the coast. 144 at Foster, 112 at Newcastle, 100 at Gosford, 122 at Sydney, 125 at Wollongong. Some nice accumulation falls. But again, nothing really that stands out across 5 days. You'd say, there's going to cause any flooding. In fact, only 60 mils at Barrel. There's going to be not much inflow into the Nepean Hawkesbury from that, or the Wallumbilla. You can see there's nothing up here in the upper reaches of that catchment area whatsoever. And again, all this stuff that falls in the basin isn't going to put pressures on that area here, because most of it will be collected by Warragamba, which is there, and then most of it will go downstream. So again, the only sort of thing you'd think about if there was going to be any sort of flood threat sort of information or heads up is again about this sort of bulge here we've seen on every single model, mind you, yet nothing there. So good news for the mid-north coast. You can see all the rain's going to be basically coastal, so there'll still be some good falls. They're like Taree, nearly 100 mils, but that's going to put no pressure on the Manning at all. It's going to all flow downstream. The upper catchments here, that stuff we can see here is on the Hunter side, so not the Manning Valley side. You can see here quite clearly, and so most of that's going to, not going to put any pressure on those river streams or riverine systems at all. So I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what that is all about, to be honest. I just don't know. All right, I've talked about a bit. I'm going to do some question and answers now and then let you enjoy your Sunday night, because, yeah, you need to enjoy your Sunday night. And we love people to enjoy their Sunday night. So any questions, stick them in the chat now, and then we'll get into the questions for you. Actually, I might leave. I wonder if I can just leave that off. Just leave the rainfall one back on for you guys, because I don't. We've got Q&A now. You can see there's going to be chat questions, and we'll leave that one because I want to leave the chat up, because then I can read the questions at the same time. All right. So good evening. Now I think the first thing I want to say is Mr. Sharp is actually having a fundraiser for his auntie, I think, who's got brain cancer, stage 4 brain cancer, which is horrendous. And I think there's I think it's a Newcastle Knights player or something like that. I think I saw flash by the Mark Hughes Foundation, where he's the guy that has the beanies day for the NRL players and that sort of stuff. Like he does, I think, for brain cancers. I think that he had someone that was close in his family that suffered brain cancer. So we'll put the link up so you can support obviously that foundation. And really sorry to hear about your auntie there, Mr. Lawn Doctor and Mr. Sharp, the King of Camden. Yeah, I obviously can't say I hope she gets better, because I don't know what the prognosis is for people with that sort of stuff. So I don't want to be insensitive and just say, I hope she gets better. I'm just going to say, look, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I hope you're all sort of coping well. And g'day Ash, g'day Funky Diva, g'day EJ Kehoe, g'day Ratso, thank you. I'm glad I made the move to YouTube too. We can actually get comments up now and stuff like that, and actually I believe the latency is heaps better, and it's actually functionality for me wise. Some people have said, oh, we missed the live streams on Facebook, and Facebook was absolutely problematic to do live streams on. It was so inflexible. This here I can use OBS, I can do cute little transitions between graphics and that sort of stuff when I actually get my head around how to do it properly. But tonight's pretty much effortlessly, I think, seamlessly. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. And YouTube is just a lot more functional. It gives a lot more flexibility when it comes to sort of creating clips and stuff. Yeah. The news and SES are saying it's a rare bomb cyclone. Like, yeah, okay. We just all saw from the outlooks there wasn't much bombing going on. It's going to be, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a nasty whatever it is, where it's a deep, a deep surface trough, or if it does get into a low status, it's going to be pretty strong. Like you saw there when it's in the central Tasman or off the coast, offshore, it was down to the 980s. So that's pretty strong for a low at this time of year, especially like, when it's cold season, you don't get a lot of air normally rising. So, yeah, pretty impressive, 988. Hello, Ego Camping. I hope freshwater is lovely for you. Yeah, you're wrong, freaks. Sorry, that is not a surface low, and it's not close circulation because it's not included. But anyway, good job for you. Hope you. The isobars are just an indication of areas of equal pressure. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a circulation center there, and that's the difference between what you see on isobars and what you see actually with a low. A low is actually defined by an occluded low-level circulation center. Isobars don't mean it's occluded low-level circulation center. It just means there's areas of low pressure, and a massive trough can be a massive area of low pressure, is what it's actually indicating as well. Hello, Deborah. Hope you are well at your way. Lovely driving with Ash. Yeah, I hope you do. I don't want anybody to be humiliated about it. I just don't understand why they've done it. If they've done it as like a preemptive strike, that's all and good. Love to see them more proactive. Actually, we always love to see. I'd love to see the Bureau move to that sort of status like they do with NAAA, which is a lot more proactive, a lot more heads up type of stuff. I don't know. They say there's a resources issue, but I'm not sure. A lot of their forecasts now are just done straight out of the system, so without much human input. So I don't know, but proactive, that's great. But if they're seeing something that it's not available, great as well. Let us know. Give us some idea of it. Um, yeah, Brad. Yeah, yeah. I got that robot voice happening. Good call out there, Brad. Um, will it be as windy as Wednesday has gone? Funky Diva. Oh, at this stage, it's pretty windy out there, but it's mainly clipping the coast. There's not a lot sort of penetrating inland other than that one bit, that one period of time we did see. So coast, yes, inland, not so much. But anyway, well, I mean, just it depends how far that system gets west. What the upper system does, how much develops, all that sort of stuff. It's really still, it's quite interesting that it's still, we're quite close to the event yet, and they're still really not locked in. Um, Screams that there's a lot of timing issues going on about the arrival of that upper event. When Ryan Hall, we call this a fish storm. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Your head knows it's coming. You're getting a bit of pressure there, Funky Diva, some migraine stuff. Yeah. Wondering where Mr. Well is with his forecasting ankle. He normally sort of picks it up. Cody, hello, Cody. I know you love lots of rain. It's not. I do love rain, but there's nothing here that would worry Warrenora Dam at this stage. A lot of that coastal stuff you can see here on the screen right now with EC, if it does even fall, as you can see, is on the eastern side of the Warrenora catchment anyway. So there's not a lot. So if I was to zoom in there for you, the Warrenora catchment, if you can just we'll actually go in a bit further. So there's Warrenora there. Yeah, I mean, I guess some would fall in it. It can't actually. There we go. It's 110 mils. Yeah. I mean, there would probably be some. I don't know, if 110 mils fell in 1 or 2 days, then you could maybe put some minor pressures on, I guess. But this is over. Don't forget this is over 5 days, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. That's a good point. Thank you, Cody, and welcome. Nice to see you as well. Hello, Stuart. Lovely to see you. Hello, Tracy. Lovely to see you there too. Up there in beautiful rural northwest Sydney there. The Bureau of Meteorology disagrees with you, hence why they've deemed it a low pressure system. They actually didn't even say that, freaks. They actually said may form. They haven't said one's going to form. So, and I've said the same thing. At this stage, what the models look like, maybe a trough, maybe a low. I haven't said not going to form. I said what the models are showing to. And the Bureau have not said a low is going to form. They said, in fact, we can even go back and, if you'd like, and I can actually read you the text what it says, because clearly reading might be an issue, but it actually does say, it says a low pressure system may form in the trough. Well, that's exactly what I've just said, is it not? I don't understand what you're disagreeing with. I'm just saying what is said on the models. I don't understand why you're being like you are. I just don't get where you're coming from. So, maybe you need to explain this a little bit better, because I don't get what you're saying at all. Kira Lee, message retracted. Oh, okay. Hello, Naz967. Lovely to see you. Welcome. Funky Diva was, yeah, we did have windy, wasn't it? It was actually pretty, Funky Diva, it was actually pretty gusty. I wonder what at Maitland will look like. Your dad's been panic merchant about it. It's definitely going to be pretty coastal. Here, you can see I can zoom into Maitland. And this, don't forget, this is just EC, so this is just one aspect, one take in it. Maitland's only 60 mils, so again, not too bad at all. It'll be pretty okay, so your dad can stop panicking. And the winds will primarily be coastal. I think, what we saw on the model output anyway at this stage, pretty within 10 to 12 k's of the coastline. I don't think it's going to penetrate much more in, other than those sort of elevated areas that we did see that there was quite strong winds at some stages again. Hello, Thomas. Lovely to see you. Hello, Ratso. Warrenora catchment is interesting. It's also small and not that reactive because the dam. Also, miss it by K2 and the water takes long. Yeah, I thought that Ratso too, because I remember in that last sort of major rain we had back in May, it really didn't actually react a lot as much as I thought it was going to be. And then they did put that minor floodwatering in. It was actually for the upper Georges coming in from the western and the southwestern areas. and nothing much coming from that southern sort of Warrenora area, and there was quite a lot of rain around. So it seems to be a quiet little weird location, that Warrenora, doesn't it? Like I really don't know what flow or what rain direction needs to come from to really pick up that. Like if we zoom in again, it's it's a pretty small catchment area. It's basically this, for those people who know Warrenora, it's at the back of Engadine, so you got waterfall Engadine around here, and this at the back of Sutherland and Menai. I mean, it's only in sort of like this little area sort of here. Um, so and then you look at here, it's 100 mils over a few days. I wouldn't imagine it's going to cause that significant sort of kick into Warrenora. Um, I don't know. It's a good point, Cody. Thanks for pointing that out too. Like that could cause some stuff flowing in here too. But you know, you know, it's it's something definitely worth watching. I mean, I guess I said I watched the last event and Warrenora didn't seem to move much at all. Whereas Nepean, Cataract, Cordell, and that sort of stuff all down here definitely did go up and down quite significantly, quite quickly. But maybe this is more, it's an accretion type, dam where it just sort of slowly trickles in as opposed to a bit more rapid responsive. I guess it is a bit further displaced from that sort of escarpment, whereas the Cordo, Cataract, all that down here, if you can see on the map here, right on the back of the Illawarra escarpment. So they're going to get that stuff as it comes over and dumped in the back of it quite easily. Whereas Warrenora here is, there's the escarpment there, and it's quite a well sort of over the hump, what I say. So, good point. That's still worthwhile watching, but yeah, good point. Hello, Sue. Lovely to see you. The swamps up there too. Yeah, like it's quite that dark forest area here. Like it's quite sort of weird, sort of also like almost like peat bogs, isn't it? Like it's really like love to want to drive past there and looking at it. It's really like sort of nothing around that we have, uh, you know, anywhere sort of around the place. It's very sort of that. I'm not saying it is, but it looks that sort of like that, almost like that Scotlandy sort of look that you see. Just a really sort of unique sort of environment up there. Pretty airy too, beautiful area. Okie dokies. We had a minor flood last rain in May. Yeah, and the dam was 2 meters below full. I think that I'm not sure that where that minor flood was actually backed up into that side of things, or because I know definitely it came down from the western side of the Georges River up here, from Liverpool, because they had that. Obviously, there was areas that actually put them on notice to stand by to evacuate the SS and that sort of stuff. Did here, and was that sort of area in the back here that flew down and created some that minor flooding. But I don't remember seeing too much in there. But there are people who are on the Facebook page out that way. They tend to keep us updated about stuff that happens in there too. So definitely keep an eye on it. It's a good point though. Um, yeah. The other thing is just like it doesn't. It's weird how this area here, because it's such deep water, in the south of the Shire here, doesn't really flood much at all. I think it's because you got the catchment is pretty small considering it's only the Royal National Park. But then I think, if I remember, it's actually quite deep water along here, isn't it? Like it's unusual. Um, Interesting, yeah, walk around and explore Funky Diva. Yeah, I agree. It's just beautiful up there. There's some good walks and stuff up there too, I've heard. Um, Thomas, I like some rain, but I'm glad that it seemed like it's all gone. We got some overseas visits from Tuesday, Saturday, doing do a lot of outdoor activity. Yeah, still might not be a lot of outdoor activity to do. Maybe from Friday onwards, but maybe not so much Thursday, Tom. I think Thursdays we'll probably see, possibly going to see the heaviest of the whole event actually. On Thursday is that trough again, and or the Tasman Low, or whatever it ends up being, pivots around and throws like one last hurrah and southeasterly surge up. Yeah, but Friday and the weekend should be pretty clear looking at that forecast at this stage. Um, I didn't know there's an orchid up there, Funky Diva. That's interesting. I think there is a. I've always thought that would be nicer. They must get massive rainfall up there. I've always wanted to see what their rainfall sort of figures there, because it looks like, if you've ever been, actually, what it reminds me of that up there? It actually reminds me of the similar vegetation that you see around Knights Hill, around this area here. Very much the similar area, and I think they're obviously both very much in terms of that orographic type accumulation type areas. Like this area for Knights Hill around here is that especially you go out in that national park. I can't remember what it's called there, but the back of Knights Hill, where you can walk around and the countryside looks almost identical to Dark's Forest. That sort of peaty, sort of boggy, sort of a lot of sort of muddy, sort of the pools of water and lots of little creeks and streams and stuff like that. Beautiful area. Yeah. Very much similar around that sort of that area here. It just goes to show, and I bet you any money this sort of area on the back of the Illawarra Escarpment, basically on the back of the dams, all the way through here, sort of Robertson Pass, Macquarie Pass, is pretty much, I imagine, would be pretty much the same. It's just like, it's sad that there's not, it's like you can't get along there and have a look. Okay, Thomas, no worries. Catch you later. Thank you for joining us anyway. Hope your visitors have a great time and enjoy the hospitality and maybe get to see a bit of rain. Okie dokies. Well, we might actually call it a break. It's been an hour, just about. You guys go off to your Sunday nights, get yourself prepared for your work weeks that we all enjoy. We'll obviously be back tomorrow with an update. I'll give a heads up in the morning whether I'm going to have the time to do it, because work's pretty hectic this week, but also whether it's, I don't know, we can all see our own eyes what was going on there. Anyway, it's it is what it is, and I guess it will unfold as it goes, and hopefully if they've got some internal sort of modelling that is showing something a bit more savage than what they're saying to us, and that they've put this flood threat advice out, maybe they might release it so we can stop this ridiculous, rare cyclone bomb, which is really not that, to be honest. And I guess we'll see then what they based it on. I've obviously got something. They've got some internal modelling they're based on, because they just don't put things out for no reason. So give them their due there. That respects just what we've seen here tonight on that. Any of that stuff we've seen here tonight, there's just nothing that says that potential for that rainfall, unless something out of the ordinary happens, I guess. All right, have an awesome night. Don't forget to check out that link for Mr. Sharp and his the Mark Hughes Foundation, or you can Google Mark Hughes Foundation and make a donation here. That'd be greatly appreciated. Obviously all the proceeds go to pretty investigating and trying to prevent things like, I think it's brain cancer, which is pretty horrendous. And no one wants to have a relative cope with that sort of stuff, or a family have to cope with that stuff as well. It's just a horrendous sort of time for everybody. So look, take care, Mr. Sharp, and your family. Sorry to hear that, and all the best to your auntie, that she doesn't suffer too much. That's probably the worst part of it all. Horrendous. I watched my grandmother die of bowel cancer, and it was just absolutely soul destroying, to be honest. But she hung in there and just persisted. When we sort of all hoped that she would just give up the ghost and just not put herself through the pain, but she was a very strong-willed woman. And just hung in there. Anyway. Oh well, bit of a flat note, sorry, but yeah, look after that, please. If you can support it, it'd be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, we're going to say good night to you all. Thank you so much for your company. Look after yourself, and we'll catch you on the flip side tomorrow morning, bright and early, hopefully, or maybe with some good news or some not so good news. Good night.